All right, Convenient Keto coming at you today with a HighKey protein cereal review. And yes, that says 0 grams net carbs. We've got frosted, cinnamon, and cocoa. Let's get into it. We've got a half cup serving size, which is 28 grams. That's on par with all the other keto cereals out there. You'll see that there's 5 grams of fat, and that 5 grams is saturated. And it's from MCT, which is great, right? So it's not the long chain. You get the MCT, great for not storing it as fat in your body. Next, 11 grams of carbs. That sounds high, but let's take a look at the math, right? We've got 3 grams of dietary fiber, and that dietary fiber comes from inulin, so not a sketchy fiber. We've got 6 grams of erythritol, or sugar alcohol, and then 2 grams of allulose, which is a non-glycemic sugar. So if you subtract that out, 11 minus 3 is 8, minus 6 is 2, minus 2 is technically 0, but total sugars shows that there's less than 1 gram. Anytime you see that, you know there is some sugar content there. That's not going to be hugely impactful in this case, but it's just something to notice, right? Like if you eat all 8 servings, you might get 6 or so grams of sugar. And then lastly, I just want to touch on the protein. We've got 10 grams, and that's going to come from milk protein isolate. And these are the ingredients for the frosted flavor. It's the most simple one. The other ones are pretty much similar. Cocoa adds cocoa powder, and then this one has vanilla for flavoring, and cinnamon adds cinnamon. So the big thing is milk protein isolate is the number one ingredient. That's where you get that 10 grams of protein. The sweetener is erythritol. And again, this is 6 grams of erythritol per serving. So if you're sensitive to sugar alcohols or erythritol in general, you know that that amount is decent, but it's not going to be too much for a lot of people. Then you have MCTs, medium chain triglycerides. That's the fat content. Inulin is your fiber, and again, that was 3 grams of fiber. Allulose, as we talked about. Sunflower lecithin as kind of a binder, the vanilla flavor in this frosted variety, and then salt and monk fruit extract. So all in all, pretty good ingredients. Erythritol generally comes from corn, so if you're trying to be corn free, that's a concern there. Sunflower lecithin, they could have used soy lecithin, but they use sunflower. So for those of you looking to avoid soy, that's also really great. And then again, the sweetener comes from erythritol, allulose, and monk fruit. One last thing is the protein source is milk protein isolate. They probably did this for taste. So as you can see, it says contains milk. So if you're trying to avoid, milk products, animal products, this isn't vegan. There is milk protein isolate, as compared to some other sources like pea protein, for instance. All right, without further ado, let's pop these boxes open and take a look inside. They're nice and little Rice Krispie size cereals, and no real surprises there. If you're familiar with Rice Krispies, it's right on par. And like we like to do, here is our serving size test. So that's 28 grams. And this is a standard size bowl and spoon, so you can kind of get a context for how much is in a serving. And I don't know if it's just like the texture of the Rice Krispies, but this feels like a lot more than those like granolas. Maybe that's because these are just so airy, right? But you definitely feel like you get a lot more for this 28 gram serving size. Okay, so let's get into the taste test. But first, a couple of things. Milkadamia unsweetened vanilla mac milk is what we always use for a test, and that's because people on keto who are eating keto cereals are going to be using unsweetened nut milks. So let's see how the sweetness of the cereal holds up to that. Secondly, with these higher protein cereals, this one, milk protein isolate, it's the main ingredient. You want to make sure it doesn't taste like a protein bar, right? We're eating cereal here. We're not eating protein bars. So how much of that protein bar taste comes through? Now I love me some Rice Krispies and Cocoa Krispies, so I'm very, very intrigued as to how this will turn out. Just poured some Mac milk in. And one thing I like about these high protein cereals is that they are super crunchy. And because they're not like grain based, they don't really get soggy at all. So if you let it sit, it's not going to turn into a soggy mess, which is really, really appreciated. But yeah, I just had a taste of this, and it really doesn't taste like a protein bar to me with the milk. The sweetness, like we talked about, actually comes through perfectly. I don't need to add any sweetener to this. So I think they took that into account and really kind of up the sweetness of the cereal by itself. So if you eat it by itself, it's pretty sweet. But I think when you mix it with milk, it really balances out really well. And you get a nice flavor that comes through. And with the cinnamon specifically, I've had cinnamon be overwhelming in the past. This actually really works. The cinnamon flavor is really balanced. So overall, this first flavor is definitely a hit. Next up is the cocoa flavor, and hot damn, tastes like Cocoa Krispies straight up. They got the flavors perfect with this one. And that sweetness, which is really good. Like we talked about, that lasting sweetness, it's very important. And that's because there's a mix of, the inulin, the allulose, the erythritol. You get that sweetness up front, and then you get that lasting sweetness as well, with the allulose, and then that erythritol and monk fruit really give it a balanced taste. We obviously loved it, as you can see, but you can tell that the milk takes on some of that color. That's because the coating kind of comes off like normal cereal, and they don't skimp on that flavor. So you really get a flavorful milk, flavorful Krispies. They just were spot on with the execution here. Okay, lastly is the frosted flavor. Now it's just basically vanilla, and I'm always a little wary of it with these protein ones when it's just vanilla, because there's not like strong flavors to mask that protein bar taste. But I'm happy to say that these have a strong vanilla flavor. So rather than just like plain Rice Krispies, it's kind of more like Rice Krispie treat flavor. And they really cranked up the vanilla, so I don't detect any of that protein bar kind of gross supplement bar taste. This is really, really good. So if you're looking for like a craving, you're craving a Rice Krispies treat, this is such an easy way to fulfill that craving. It also probably makes some nice Rice Krispie treats. We got to figure out a good way to do that. We'll let you know, but all in all, this is another winner. Okay, so that was the HighKey protein cereal review. In summary, these are super crispy. They have great flavor, lasting sweetness, right? Thanks to that allulose and the sweetener blend. So it's really great with unsweetened nut milk. It's 0 gram net carb, or zero-ish, right? As we like to say. And per serving size and cost, it's on par with other protein cereals like Magic Spoon. I think Cereal School's a little higher than both of those, but it's right on par with the other high protein keto cereals out there. And for whatever reason, again, maybe the airiness, it just feels like you're eating a lot more for that 1 ounce serving. So I think this is a great option. They knocked it out of the park with the flavors, super balanced, and I think they would make amazing Rice Krispies treats, which can't be said about the other cereals out there. So go give this a try. I don't think you guys will be disappointed. This is a winner. HighKey's protein cereals in frosted cocoa and cinnamon flavors.